Good evening, everyone. I am back, and I have found my co-hosts to be here with me to break this down and to discuss the Legend of Vox Machina, the first episode. For everyone who may be just joining us freshly, I am the Calm Scribe, Travis Croken, and I am being joined now by my co-hosts who will introduce themselves.
I am LJ, the author of The Dying Sun.
I am Billy Pomerleau, also known as Sporkle McSpork, and I am not the author of The Dying Sun.
But he does
good.
have a
I would
very
have-
good mug.
I have an identity crisis there. Yes. And now that we've co-opted the stream,
There we go. So now we're talking about The Dying Sun. So this is, as some of you, hopefully all of you know, when The Wheel of Time came out with on Amazon Prime, I created a new segment of the Writer's Chat called After the Weave, and it was supposed to be a standalone thing for Wheel of Time. Billy came in and joined in as a guest host and stayed for the season. LJ came in and joined as a guest host and stayed for the season. And at the end, from requests from people in chat and from discussions with my co-hosts, they officially became my co-hosts, and we decided to turn After the into a permanent segment. So there will be breaks between shows of a couple of weeks, usually. But we are now on to After the Roll, breaking down the Legend of Vox Machina, that we have to thank Billy for bringing to the table as a suggestion of something that we can look at. And after watching this first episode, I am so thrilled that this is that we're doing this, and this is the show that we're breaking down. And we already have a question from chat saying, Billy is cute, is he single?
I am married, but Mr. Dinosaur knows where I live, so...
oh,
There we go. So there is something there's down at the bottom of the screen here below me beside Billy is a thing that says, warning, mature themes discussed by immature people. That's because this is going to be breaking down Legend of Vox Machina. I don't know if I can explain it further than that.
there are butts.
There is butts. And
Yeah.
there's butts and balls, actually.
Yeah.
And alcohol.
And boobs.
And boobs. A little bit of vomiting.
Yeah, a little
Yes. Yeah.
And a lot of laughs. It is definitely like sitting down around a Dungeons and Dragons table and watching a game, or you almost feel like you're a participant in the game the way they've done this. So the thing with this, though, is we are going to be breaking down the episode, giving our opinions of it, our thoughts, and we are coming at this from 3 different perspectives. I am a writer, so I'm coming at this as a fiction author with a limited background in Dungeons and Dragons. I've played some, but I haven't played in a very long time. But I do write in science fiction and psychological thriller and a lot of different fantasy or fiction genres. LJ is a fantasy author and the author of The Dying Sun, and she has no background in Dungeons and Dragons. So she's coming at this from that perspective. So there's 2 writing perspectives, and Billy is an actor with an extensive background in Dungeons and Dragons. So we, as always, are coming at this show with 3 fresh perspectives on how to break it down and what we think of it. So welcome to my co-hosts officially for being here and for making After the Roll a permanent segment on the Writer's Chat and having so much fun.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Always.
That's awesome. So the first episode was something else. The Terror of Tal'Dorei. It was everything. I have to say, it was everything I hoped it was. Everything I hoped it would be.
Yeah. I feel like we could have titled this butts, boobs, balls, and vomit, because that really that sums up, I think, the first 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes very well.
Butts, boobs, balls, and barf.
There we
There we
go. For the perfect alliteration.
That's
Yeah.
the painful alliteration.
Yes.
And now everyone's going to be thinking about that lovely word barf when we discuss vomiting once in a while.
Yeah.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. As someone with absolutely no D&D knowledge other than the fact that D&D is you use dice and everything tends to go to hell. I know a handful of tropes. It was a lot of fun getting to watch it and feel like I was very much so in a D&D campaign.
Yeah.
You could really see that they were adapting the campaign without it being really like painful. Any of the awkward kinds of moments that you would get around the table. Um, they and they were catering to their audience. Like I feel like it was very much there were many nods to the people I think who have watched Critical Role since the beginning, but not so many that it was kind of too much. As someone coming in as a total neophyte, I could see where some of those nods were without feeling like I was totally left out. Especially when, yeah, they were doing things that just felt entirely like they just rolled some dice and shit happens.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the things about the series in general that I was interested in seeing how it was going to be portrayed, because as far as I know, there's never been any kind of animation or live action, any kind of feature presentation based on an actual game of Dungeons and Dragons, at least not in this kind of scope. And I wondered how clunky it was going to be, or if it was going to be like very obvious to the viewer that that's what, like, this is a tabled game that they just happened to animate. And I was really pleased with how seamlessly the story seemed to go, without being clunky or like, oh, you can tell right here that this was a dice roll that just happened to go X, Y, and Z. It felt pretty fluid.
Yeah, it felt very authentic, and it did feel like you were sitting at the table, participating or watching this play out. Like, it was just, the show breaks the fourth wall without breaking the fourth wall, and it invites you in to be a part of it. And it's really weird to say this about about an animation, but I found it was fantastic. Like I said, I do have some background in D&D, so I do understand the mechanics and how it works and all that. And I just found, I was looking at it from the same thing. Was this, because I've had ideas of writing similar stories on a different topic. So I was kind of curious to see how this would play out. And I think they did a great job. Like you said, the things that you can kind of look at and be like, oh yeah, that's how this role was played. And we're going to get into those as we go. Lends it to that sense of authenticity without it being, it's silly to say false, but without it being trite or being like an obvious, like, oh, that's what this is, kind of like you were just saying. I think they did a great job with that. And overall, I think from a storytelling perspective, which is kind of what my perspective is going to be on this episode for tonight, I think I wasn't sure what I was expecting for it, especially for this, and being what it wasn't necessarily a group of writers sitting down and coming up with this. This was a story written from what it was. They hit so many story beats and so many story items bang on. They did wonderful introductions. They really made memorable scenes and scenarios. And that's something I'm going to talk about as we go. But that was the thing that I found was I was really impressed just at the storytelling and how it went along and how well thought out it was as they carried this story along.
Yeah, on top of that, I don't know how much actual subject material this episode alone was based on. It could be 4 hours, 8 hours, 25 hours worth of, tabletop play. I thought what did get in there, like, it felt really full without feeling like I'm missing so much. Like, what is it that they didn't tell me? What is it that happened before the show started? Like, it felt like the right amount of like I was getting the right amount of information, and it was being displayed in a way that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it hit a lot of those beats where I didn't feel like I was missing out on backstory. For a pilot episode, it was very much the like, okay, I feel like I've got the basic kind of caricatures of these people. I have an idea of what to expect going forward, and I didn't have that feeling of, wow, I don't know any of these characters, and I know Travis is kind of disagrees with me on a couple of those points. But it felt like there's lots of room to grow without me feeling like it's the I'm clearly missing backstory here. Like it felt like they were able to do a lot with 25 minutes. That was
Yeah.
Yeah.
really on point, especially, yeah, 25 minutes to get you to know what is it, 7 characters, introduce a world, and introduce a plot. That's a lot to do in a very short amount of time, especially when you are adapting something that is from a D&D sessions. And the dinosaur did say that it wasn't based on a filmed play session, but the fact that they're still having to get it to line up to those sessions so that you're not feeling
Yeah.
like, oh, this was off of a non-filmed session that didn't have dice rolls, and then going to like the next episodes, which I haven't watched yet. Um, and if those ones are based off of the dice rolls, I'm glad that you're not going to have this like really strong difference of the, oh, now I have a totally different show that I'm watching because they just rolled a whole bunch of ones and fails everything.
Yeah. Well, and that's the exact thing with it. Like they did so much in 25 minutes with that, and that's something that I often talk about is having when you introduce characters or starting a show, you're introducing the ordinary world, you're introducing the characters, and you want to show who they are, what they're about, and make them memorable so that people actually care about them. And within this 25 minutes, they did this 4 times. And as we discussed earlier, there's 4 separate ways they did this. We get to see them in the tavern, where we see how society sees them, how everyone else sees them, as kind of this joke of a group of people. And then we also see what their abilities are because the bar fight breaks out, and we see how they fight and what's happening. Then they get thrown out of the bar, and they have this heartfelt conversation where they actually verbally say, this is who you are, this is what you do, and this is your perspective on us as a group. And then we get to see the bard play out in front of the in front of the sovereign. He plays and shows how they portray themselves to everybody, and again reinforces what they are and what their abilities are. And then they go and they face this conflict that they have, and the abilities that we see how amazing and great they are at the beginning all fail them, which is what you want to have happen. And then you get to see the characters come to a realization about who they are. And I think to be able to cram all of just that in 25 minutes is a feat in itself. But to fit everything else in there and make it enjoyable and not feel like something is being rammed down your throat is highly impressive storytelling.
One of the things, though, that I really did like was that you got to see what all of the abilities were in that first tavern brawl, but you didn't see them coordinate well. Like you saw people tripping over each other, Grog slamming Percy, poor man. All of those things where it's they're drunk off their asses to varying degrees. Well, some are sober from one beer, and others are drunk off their asses from one beer. But you're seeing all of these really cool abilities and a really dysfunctional team. But you know that they are still a team. They know how to fight with each other, but they're drunk. And I loved that came across. We weren't prepared for a fight. We got into a fight. This is really hard to coordinate when you're not in a good place.
But they should be prepared because every time they go drinking, they get into a fight.
But drinking. But then it was really cool to see them versus the dragon and having that moment where they are coordinated and trying to manage a foe that they've never had to fight the likes of before, and seeing where things fail them, where things don't, and how the team both coordinates and fails in kind of the before, the during, and the aftermath, which just had so much character growth too in those moments and backstory in those moments that was just really neat to get to see.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think that it really goes to show. So I'm not gonna lie. I watched this episode 4 times. So I feel like I put my time into this one, and it didn't hit me until talking to LJ and Travis today that they did character introductions 4 times, and they really did. And it just went so seamlessly over my head because of how fun and how much environment and just how much was packed into it, that it was so great. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, because that's what we're talking about. There's the story beats, right? And just in this, we get very quickly, as an overview of the thing, we are introduced to the realm and what's happening, what it was, what it is, and what the new threat is, the thing that's off about it. We get introduced to the main characters and what a day in their life is like, which is like a typical 20-year-old, I think. But what a day in their life is like. And then we see that quickly that they are the willing heroes. They are in trouble, or anti-heroes, heroes, however you want to look at them. They're in trouble. They need money.
I think a little bit of both when it comes to the
point.
anti-heroes. You have your paladin who is a paladin, and then you have everyone else who is just kind of in it for the money.
Yeah.
Very much so in it for the money.
But money's important.
Or the boobs.
Well, exactly. But those are both very important things. But they have to, so they have to do this. And they go, like we talked about with the willing heroes, is you want to go on this thing, but something's stopping you. And the thing that's stopping them is their reputation and the fact that the way they look, and they have to convince the sovereign to go in. They make that pass. I love the fact that the airship is kind of an actual crossing of a threshold. And I love the excitement in Grog as he runs like a little kid, like up to the front. He's like, ah! And the paladin jumps on his back. Like that scene was just, it was so much fun in these scenes.
So cute too. Like it's just so childlike and heartfelt and fun.
Well, and even when Vax and Vex are talking, and then Scanlan comes up and he's like, "Why are you guys whispering? Like no one, like you think no one can hear you?" Just little quips and stuff that they had, just really tied in and showed how close they were, even though they do have their differences. Then they face their, they go along, they learn some new things, they start their trials and tribulations, they see the shell steps, see what's going on, meet some people, face their ultimate thing, and then come back and have something that pushes them over the edge into the story fully and continue on. So again, like there's some really solid story beats that they, again, in 25 minutes, they put in. And if you think about all the stuff that we've said so far, the layers that we're putting on from this episode, there's a lot that they packed in, and they kept it, like you all both said, fun and just entertaining, the antics. And it does really seem, I think that's the thing that makes it so much fun, is it makes it seem like we're sitting around the table with everyone, is it does seem just like a quippy game that you'd be having with friends, where snarking at each other and making little comments and things like that, and like, should we even be continuing on with this? Like, why are we even doing this? And it just
money. Money is the reason we do this. But no, it very much feels like that, of the quippy D&D game, is that you're getting all of those kinds of the characters that you love and enjoy, regardless of whether you've ever watched a Critical Role game before, because they're well designed characters, both when it comes to the written aspects of it, their dialogue and whatnot, but also just in the character designs, that everything is just fun, and the artwork is gorgeous. They did an excellent job with it. It reminds me of Netflix's Castlevania, which was another one that is very quippy and, has those moments, not as lighthearted, but this is one that, like, you're not coming out of it feeling really depressed and like the world is about to end. You know that the stakes are going to just keep increasing, because we started out with the dragon. I mean, it is only going to get better from here, and I have very high expectations now. And yeah, it is a lot of fun with the writing style. They did not decide to take themselves seriously, and Billy's favorite character is very helpful in that regard.
So I love bards.
I was gonna say, should we break down the characters with this? Because I mean, it goes without saying the voice acting was amazing, and you're right, Dinosaur. The Titmouse is such an amazing animation studio. They hit it out of the park with this. I think, again, the writing, the animation, the music, everything was just gorgeously done and put together. But let's break down some of the characters. So we've got your favorite character, Billy. What's going on with him?
Yeah, so I'm talking about Sir Bard himself, Scanlan Shorthalt. He is everybody's favorite bard, everybody's favorite gnome, I should say. They do mention a couple times that he is a gnome, as people quip, "Get away from me, gnome." And he's very motivated for the booty or the booby or whatever gains that he can get. And in this episode, we see him betting the innkeeper's daughter, which
Yeah.
is one
Yeah.
of my favorite moments of the episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I watched this with
It's-
my wife. Like, she knew I was going downstairs to watch it. And she's like, "Oh, yeah, I'll come down. I'll watch it with you." I'm like, "All right." And then we started watching it. And then a few minutes into it, she was like, What are we watching?"
I mean, it tells you what it is. It's very much this is what's happening. And I'm sorry, my camera has decided to do that.
I don't know if you noticed, I'm like, "Is there
Like,
something on
what
my
am I
screen?"
No, it's mine. It's mine. So we'll
That's
just casually move out of the box.
There we go.
Sometimes it needs to be the center of attention, and occasionally it decides in the middle of things.
It won.
Yeah.
That's all right.
There we go.
But yeah, so he is a very interesting character. Just his personality and the thing that struck me was his confidence in this. Like, in every scene, his confidence is just through the roof.
He's got swagger.
Yes. Yeah. He does. He is like a nat 20 would just be his roles on confidence like the entire time. Ego is not one of his problems.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
But you know, he's got the suave to back everything up. So
Yeah, and the rap abilities. I mean, dude can shift from like a bardic tune into a full-blown freestyle, just like smooth transition.
Yeah.
yeah.
Just it's an amazing thing with this. But then Dinosaur is saying that Pike Trickfoot might have something to say about being everyone's favorite gnome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So,
who is Pike Trickfoot?
Pike Trickfoot is your cleric in the group. She is.
That's right.
Yeah. See.
That's right. Bad on names.
I feel like they skipped over Pike a little bit throughout this episode, but you know, she's the holy person that seems to be struggling a little bit with her holiness. You know, runs out of magic in inopportune times, and
I like that she blesses things in the way that I would when put on the spot. It's like, will you bless his house? I bless your house. Done. It's the same kind of like, I don't fucking know. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
We'll do the thing.
Yeah, she is a great character. And I do see that she was kind of glossed over a little bit. I found that they glossed over Percy a little bit more. They said that he had the pepper box. They said that he was kind of elitist and snobby. Not much more than that. You know, he drinks wine. He's got a cool invention. Like he's an inventor, a scientist of some sort, and
so he's a classy, smug son of a bitch.
Yeah, but that was the thing. I just found I would have liked to have seen a little more depth of character for him. I found that because of Pike, just the way the scenes that she was in, the things that she did, gave you an idea of who she was, what she was about, and that was the thing that I found. And that's what I was saying, Dinosaur, with the glazing over of Percy. While they did do that, I do feel that this is something that next episode I'm going to look at and go, oh, okay, that's why. I fully expect that there's a reason why that has happened and how it's coming out. I don't think that they did such a great job at introducing all the characters and then fell flat on two accidentally. There's purpose behind it. No,
yeah,
not at all.
We encourage chat to come hang out and talk because that, that's fun. I think that if they had tried to throw too much backstory into everything, then it would have had to sacrifice some of the other areas that were fun.
Yeah.
And I think there are times when you have to serve the rule of cool and the rule of fun. And this is definitely one of those things where they are both trying to tell a good story and have a tight arc as far as, you know, your story beats and whatnot. And they've achieved all of that. But they also needed to achieve their rule of fun, rule of cool. And that meant that if it had to sacrifice a little bit of Percival or a little bit of Pike to achieve those extra 3 seconds of Scanlan rapping, then it was a well-served moment, I think.
Yeah, it was. Well, the other thing too is, as from a writer's perspective, you also have to have, you want to avoid the concept of info dumping, where all of a sudden you're just throwing everything out and just spewing everything onto the page. And the other thing too is, you need stuff that you need to pepper in later on. If you give everything all up front, you've got nothing to talk about later on. You have to keep some points of interest for later in the date. And that's what they're doing with this. So like I said, those two things that I see were kind of, those two characters I can see kind of glazed over. I can see why, but I enjoy the characters so much that I want to know more. Like, why am I being short on this? So I know the reasons behind it, but it was one of those things that I would love to have. I can't wait to see more and who they are. Yeah.
And that's always an excellent way that you want to feel coming out of a pilot of something.
Yeah.
You want to come out of it and do the, okay, yeah, let's watch the next episode, or I want to know more about these characters. Even I want to know some of the backstories of the NPCs, or why they chose these character designs, or, you know, just all of those things are very cool. And answering some of those mysteries that they've set up for us, you know, as far as the human footprints right up into the dragon, and Vox, or rather Vax or Vex, whichever one it is, because who knows? Being able to hear and tell when the dragon is near, and whether or not, my question is whether or not there's a shapeshifter that is doing things with the dragon and whatnot, a la, you know, Dragonlance style, since Dragonlance is from D&D and all of that.
See, I've got a feeling that there's someone with the Sovereign. I think I've got some ideas as to who it is.
So,
I think it's someone with the Sovereign that's tiptoeing around.
I'm really torn about it, because there's the obvious person that it is, and then there's several other candidates that it could be. Yeah. And I trust them to be witty enough to not necessarily go with the obvious red herring choice. But then again, sometimes it is worthwhile to have an obvious red herring choice and have that actually be the person.
Well, that's the twist, right?
Yeah, so it's I am interested to see what direction they end up going here, or if there's more to it. Since we're actually, you know, kind of talking about the people around the Sovereign, there were some great lines tossed in there.
Yes, there were.
As far as, like, the butchers are butchered, the murder hobos have been murdered. And you have to have murder hobos, and I loved it.
And the Death Stalkers are dead.
Yes.
Yes, it was amazing. And one other clue too, though, that I caught on to, because they did lead tantalizing tidbits, like what's the human footprint leading up to the dragon? And another question is, why did Scanlan blush when he caught Pike when she fell over after killing Grog?
Well,
is there a romance brewing? Will Scanlan walk away from his scandalous ways and end up finding love? Stay tuned.
No, this is when threesomes start happening with a very awkward Pike.
Oh boy. She likes to drink with the best of them, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's also just little things that were ridiculous. Like after when they got kicked out, or when they cut off Agar's hand, and Grog is like, "Oh, can I keep this?" And when they go outside, he's sitting there like a kitten, like flicking it up in the air and playing with it.
Well, and when he's doing with his hand, like, Grog might be my favorite character because there are many moments I identify with him as a person, and I am just really amused by that. So,
yeah,
I'm not gonna lie, that's a good choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still am on the fence on who my favorite character is. I really like Grog. I'm leaning towards Grog. I like... Again, I need to know more of the characters before I fully have a favorite. Right now, honestly, my favorite character is Trinket.
Okay, yeah.
Like Trinket, like hands
Solid
down.
choice.
Like, it's like Trinket and then Grog would be my favorites. But I just love the fact that this giant hulking, like 3,000-pound bear in battle armor's name is Trinket.
It's adorable.
And the personality they gave it. Like when it has to sit outside and it's kind of like, oh, and just sits there with the film. Like, it was just, they've done such a good job, even with the bear for that.
So my favorite part about that is that Matthew Mercer is actually the voice of Trinket. So Matt actually gets to be part of the party.
So basically the same kind of way that Alan Tudyk did Hey Hey of the here. I get to make animal noises.
Yeah. And someone tell you they thought Grog was just a really sarcastic, smart person after the first episode.
I would love to see that. I don't think that's going to be the case. I really loved his little conversation after the boy died of the I'm feeling things on the inside and they don't feel good. And I'm like, as someone who hates dealing with emotions, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. These are horrible situations when they actually make you start feeling things. It's terrible. Go kill a dragon.
Down with feelings. Speaking of which, can we address the dragon?
The dragon in the room?
Pardon me?
Address the dragon in the room?
Yes, address the dragon in the room.
It's not a wyvern like that.
Exactly. It's not a wyvern. That is one of my biggest pet peeves. If I were to nerd out and get aggressive on someone, it's around the fact that they're constantly like, this is a dragon. Like, no, that's a Chinese water dragon. That's a wyvern. That's not a dragon. This is a dragon. It's amazing. It's got big, thick body, 4 legs, long tail, the fins on the back coming off the back of the head, giant wings. Like, this is a dragon. And it is a beautifully designed and drawn dragon. It's not a goofy looking thing. It's in proportion. It's like, this is probably one of the best dragons I have seen animated.
I want to ride it.
With 5 C's. 5 C's. That's how thick it is.
Yes.
Talking about bums, look at the booty on that dragon. But they did such a fantastic job on it. And I was like, when I figured it was a dragon when they're going up to it, and I always get this like, I'm going to get excited. I'm going to get disappointed. Oh my God, look at the dragon. So, yeah.
It's a real dragon.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's you're starting off on the right foot when it's you called it a dragon and you did it right.
Yeah.
And if you weren't going to do it right, then you needed to have like Percy on the side being like, this isn't a dragon, guys. And just like put a lantern on it. But no, I loved that it was an actual dragon. I loved that it kicked their ass. And I loved the different displays of personal trauma, PTSD, and how they were shown differently depending on the character. And because I'm terrible with names, I don't remember what the character, the girl who has the druid-ish powers, the vines and whatnot, Keyleth. Yeah. I love that she freaks out and we don't know exactly what her backstory is. So we don't know if she also has some kind of dragon-related trauma or if it's just the fact that it is a dragon. By reputation alone, that is terrifying. And then she's sitting in front of it and, oh my God, I'm going to die. And I loved that they showed a hero struggling and having an actual like traumatic spiral happen. And then on the flip side, like you see Vax and Vex afterwards, and you can see that they are discombobulated and trying to do everything they can to keep it together when it's very much the like, nope. It's a little octopus gif of the we're out, we're done. No. Yeah. And I love the fact that they just drop beats like that quickly and inclusively and just so well.
That's the thing. I just want to say also thank you very much for the follow, Treehouse CD. Welcome to the Writers Chat.
Yay.
Welcome as a fellow scribe. But that's the thing. They did do that. And I love the fact that they do have those emotional beats. They do have the PTSD, the suffering, even Grog talking about his feelings and his emotions. It's not just something that, I think that's one thing that makes it such a success, is that it's not a tie-in, or it's not just a constant quippy, happy, go lucky, like, we just got our asses kicked by a dragon, let's quip it off and go off and go do something else and just continue on with the quest. Like, there is actual moments of pause and reflection and addressing feelings and doing a pretty good job of someone that suffers anxiety, PTSD, and depression. They did a pretty damn good job at showing some of these things of like how people get triggered and how you kind of shut down. And it wasn't, I think they did a great job with Keyleth when she panicked. She wasn't panicking and running around in circles and acting the fool. It was just kind of this deer in headlights, stuck, frozen, like, no, this is not happening. This is not possible. This is not, like, you could almost just hear her brain on the no loop. And I think they did such a good job at addressing these things. And thank you also, Dinosaur, for the follow. I appreciate it.
Not only that, but I appreciated the fact that they did that without making it the center of attention. They didn't make this entire character about, hey, I have PTSD. They didn't make the whole character, oh, Grog's showing his feelings. It was just something that happened fluidly. Some of the people recognized it or they didn't, and they moved on. And it can come back continually with that character and be a great character piece without it being part of a caricature or anything like that. I thought that it was really great.
They set up a lot of great character growth.
I loved too that Vex or Vax, whatever her name is.
Vex is female. The A is male.
Okay.
Yep.
And the E is female.
I'm gonna just call them Vox and be done with it and leave it ambiguous.
Perfect.
The Voxes.
Yeah. The fact that in the middle of all of that, the middle of the conflict, she does go over and do the, hey, look, you need to get your shit together. But she doesn't do it in a way that makes Keyleth feel bad or anything. It's the like, no, dude, we need you. Do your thing. And then there isn't any afterwards of them doing the, well, if Grog hadn't gotten us into this, we would have been okay. Or if it's, if Keyleth had actually gotten her shit together sooner, we would have done better. It was all of this like, okay, we just had our asses handed to us collectively. It wasn't starting to do any of the finger pointing or anything like that, which was also just really nice to see that it was just oh no, we should have gone after the giant rats, not the dragon. That was too much. Whoops.
And there wasn't even that breakdown of the group at the end when they were like, well, we signed a contract, we said we're going to do this, that's what we're supposed to be doing. And it's like, no, we go back, we cancel the contract, we're out, we're not doing this, we're done. And they go and they turn and they walk. And the other thing too is when their abilities failed them, it wasn't a big to do either. And that's what I mean by this was such an authentic show, was that like they addressed it. When the biggest guy of them all, the giant, runs in and is flicked away immediately, they're like, Grog's down already? Come on. And it's just that really quick, like, Grog goes to jump in, gets booted backwards. And so we see how strong Grog is from before. And now he just, obviously, it's a dragon. That's a pretty big force to be going against. But there wasn't a big to-do about it. It wasn't a big funny, like, haha, he slipped on a banana peel and whatever. It was just a natural, like, you're in a real fight. People are going to drop that you don't expect, and people are going to succeed that you don't expect.
Speaking of that moment, I think my favorite quote from the episode was at that moment when Vax says, "Grog, you dumb brave asshole."
Yes.
No, we stay and fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I love the dynamic between all of them, because even though you have earlier that dark moment of them being like, why are we even a team? Like, why are we here? We aren't a good team together. We're not good for each other. Like, all that big conversation of like, basically, Pike has morals and the rest of us don't, and we're just I don't know what's going on and why we're all together.
Yeah.
And drunk off my ass Keyleth trying to make, philosophizing over these things. But then yeah, at the end when it is the like, okay, well, we've had our asses handed, everybody is the no, we're a team. This is too much for all of us. And it was really cool. And it's really neat to see like that as much as there's going to be interpersonal conflict, it's not going to be the bullshit of the, well, I'm going to say something and deliberately cause drama and those kinds of contrived things that drive me insane.
Yeah. And it's actual arguments between a team. Like those are things that actually people do have. Like, yeah, you do have drama makers and things like that occur, but generally you have someone that's like, you know what, you're really pissing me off right now, smarten up. And then you move on as a team. Or like, you know what, like just these, you have these real conversations with people. And I agree,
Percy when he does the
Vox were amazing.
Like Percy doing the this is why I hate traveling with holy people. They're just so good. And it's like accurate.
Yeah.
She is absolutely being the holy person who's going to get you killed if you go immediately after a dragon.
Yeah. And thank you for
fun.
the follow, Cara Burke. I appreciate it. Well, welcome to the writer's chat. But the thing is, too, is that they also throw things up. Like, there's a lot of subtlety and nuance that they added into this, if you break it down. And right after that thing where they're sitting in the alley and Keyleth is saying, like, why are we doing this? Like, Grog is an ogre that just wants to murder everyone. Scallon's a gnome bard that wants to sleep with everyone. And, you know, we already know about some of the others. But then we go into Vax and Vex. And she's like, in Vax and Vex, the twins, they just don't care about each other. Like, they don't care about anyone else. They just care about themselves. That's it. Right? They're these heartless, and they're both kind of like, hey, like, what the hell?
I appreciated that.
Yeah, exactly. But we learned that they've got trauma, that their parents were killed by a dragon, and they've got these secrets that nobody else knows that they're kind of holding with. But almost immediately afterwards, after they've gotten this thing of, they get the job to go, they go into this little mountain village, and the very first thing that Vax does is bend down and play magic with this little kid. And have this really tender, intimate moment with this child, and then give him the coin and basically say, like, you know, here, this is. So while the paladin, Pike, is off there going, yeah, your house is blessed. We have this really nice moment between the uncaring Vax and this child that is ultimately, they're the ones in the beginning that were like, screw this, I'm out. We're not doing this. You're stupid. To, we have no other choice. We are doing this.
It is interesting because, yeah, you're having this dichotomy of in so many ways, the people that they try to represent themselves as versus the people that they are. So it is they're obviously putting up that front of no, we care about, like, I care about my sibling and I kind of care about the rest of you, but that is it. And then, yeah, you see the cracks in that with Vax and the little kids and Vex with Keyleth and whatnot there's a lot more heart to these characters than what meets the eye or what they're trying to portray, which honestly, again, could be laid at the feet of trauma you're putting up walls to protect yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what they're doing.
Well, and this flashed me back to, again, the scene I really like from the Marvel Cinematic Universe where Captain America and Iron Man are fighting with each other. Or Rogers and Stark are fighting with each other. And Rogers looks at Stark and says, you know what, that's the thing. It's like, that's the thing about you. You will never sacrifice yourself for anyone. You don't have it in you. You cannot be the one to sacrifice. You're too selfish. And then we see how things end off with that. And that was kind of that scene for me where it's like, you know what, you guys don't care about anybody else but yourself. And then immediately after, there's like, well, no, you're wrong about that. So what else are you wrong about? Or what else are you misinterpreting with that? Like, it was just a really kind of, like, again, there's just the subtle nuances they've tied in to this is amazing for a 25-minute episode.
So on the less than subtle peeling off of layers, you kind of have to start dealing with Scanlan, because there's so much Scanlan. So much Scanlan. And just those moments of, like, when he's peeing on the guard, I just was like, oh, you dick. Yeah. Like, oh my God, that's disgusting. Which they did lean heavily into some of the disgusting elements with all of the vomit, barf, however you want to refer to it.
Well, the fact that we've got butts, balls, boobs, barf, and pee.
Wait.
is
Oh,
like
help
there's all of these
that.
things are all just like tied in. Like there's just all the things that are like everyone when you write a show, everyone's like, okay, well you must be afraid and careful not to use too much vomit. Don't use urine. Don't talk about breasts. And with this, they're like, here's everything.
We're
the
gonna
first
barf
15
in
minutes.
people's mouths. Yeah. Like, no.
To be fair, it was a Doberman.
A
Are you
badass
saying that it's
Doberman.
okay to vomit in Doberman's mouths?
I'm just saying maybe he liked it.
Who knows? It's Doberman. Like we don't know what Dobermans are down with. Although from
He
his
didn't
reaction,
seem like
I'm going to
he
say
was-
he probably didn't like it.
Yeah, he didn't seem to like it.
He didn't seem to consent to that. That didn't seem to be up his wheelhouse.
But again, like the hot take, dog people are not people.
Oh man.
What about? Okay, well we got to get back to Scanlan and to the barf stuff. But on a side tangent, what about shape-shifting minotaurs as bartenders?
I
yeah.
thought
Dog
that
people
was so
are people.
cool.
Okay.
Dog people are people. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought the bartender was awesome.
Yeah.
That was
So-
just awesome. That was great.
One of the great things I loved about just those scenes was it started with some really awesome LGBTQA asterisk everything inclusivity right away in that tavern scene, because you have like Vax doing the I'm down for it if you are, and confusing the hell out of that assassin. And then you have a bearded Minotaur woman, and it's awesome. And I just love that it is so much of a just whatever. This is just natural and part of this world, and it didn't need to really have like a lantern hung on it the way that I'm doing. But it was just really neat to see and have that, and see, especially honestly, a large corporation like Amazon funding more shows where these things are positive
Well, I just
and
wanted to,
not, frowned on constantly.
yeah, and I just wanted to point out the fact that this is the second show that we're breaking down, and after the roll and after the weave, both of them are fantasy shows. Both of them are from Amazon, and both of them, this one so far, I don't think they're going to drop the ball, have done an astounding job at dealing with LGBTQ plus issues, with emotional issues, with trauma issues, with consensuality, and all these kind of things. Like, they have just done such a great job, and it is so refreshing to see two brand new shows come out that you can look at, and it's not the same tropes, it's not the same crap, it's not using aggression for love, it's not crossing lines or anything like that, and it's not making any of these things tropey or funny or like, oh look, he's making a gay joke against Agar. It's like, no, that's actually just like, it's a thing. Again, it's natural.
It's just quippy, good
so
turn
well
of
done.
phrase. Like, that was just an excellent, you worded poorly, sir, and now the turnabout is hilarious. But not in a making fun of gay people way. It's just in a like, well, he's down for it, and you're not, that was not as threatening as you meant it to be. You messed up, and now you're confused.
Yeah, I would say that the Critical Role cast and the community in general are huge into supporting LGBTQA plus community in every way that they can. So it doesn't surprise me at all that they have inclusivity in the first episode, and I'm sure we're going to see a lot of that going forward.
Oh yeah, it seems like it is very much set up for that. And honestly, I am expecting Scanlan to be completely bi or pan, like 100%. I am expecting him to just bed anything that's willing instead of just bedding women.
Isn't that what they said when they're outside the tavern, where he was like, it's okay, I want
think
to like
that they
bet
alluded-
everything that moves or something? It's not like, how did he phrase that? You watched it 4 times, Billy.
He alluded to the fact that if it moves, he's pretty much ready to go.
Yeah, it's just
Dinosaur said it correct.
Yeah,
Scanlan
anything
is
sexual.
anything sexual. Yeah.
But he's prosexual. He's trisexual. If it's sexual, he'll try it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the thing that I like. Again, they have these characters that I just really, really connect with. But we were talking about Scanlan and we got sidetracked, and then we're talking about the more grotesque side of things. But so Scanlan's character is freaking hilarious. Like, they don't even have to go into a backstory for him. You see him, you're so entranced and enthralled with him, and then your brain is just like, oh, he is the backstory. Okay. And you keep going.
I mean, like, when you introduce a character with Percy doing the "Where the hell is Scanlan?" and he is just naked and singing to his newest, I hesitate to use the word conquest, but it feels like the right thing. She's a very willing conquest here.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's hilarious. And also, again, the fact that female orgasms are not often like shown or talked about in television. So to have an animation of the, he's going down on her, and basically the, no, mom, you don't want to know what is going on here. Just go away.
Yeah.
Leave me to this. You people have your fight. He's mine right now. Was fantastic and hilarious.
Yeah. They really nailed that so well. Again, like, just everything that they've done with this was so well thought out, and they didn't glaze over things, like, apart from those two characters. No, but they didn't just do things rushed. They didn't do things quick. Like, we're going to get this really, really well done, and that doesn't really matter. Like, that's just background, so we don't have to focus on it. Even the background stuff was just ridiculous and hilarious. Like, when they're having the fight in the bar, and then Vax is knocked off to the side, and instead of jumping right back, he grabs a beer and drains it. And he gets back up and goes back into the fight. Like, just these little tiny things that show their personality and show that there was actual thought put into every single scene that they did.
Yeah, I understand that it's a lot of material that they're working from, and I know that obviously there's probably not going to be enough time, definitely in this season, maybe in the life of the series, to go through everyone's backstories and all the things that they hit. But I sure hope they do, because there's a lot of fun things that can come out of it if they do, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, they seem to have
it
ways
really
of just
does feel
sliding it in.
like it feels like something that can go on for years, and I'm really hoping, like, even just from watching one episode, that it's like that there will be years and seasons upon seasons of Vox Machina coming forward.
Yeah, I hope that the success helps them decide that they want to continue it. As of right now, it was originally only supposed to be a 30-minute animation. That was the original idea of the entire thing. Was a 30-minute animation.
Oh wow, that would have
and
been
then
awesome.
they right, and then they made it was just supposed to be like a prequel of the stuff that didn't happen at the table, but then they there was so much clamoring for it and so much money was raised. They were like, all right, we'll do a series. I'm hoping that it does so well that they decide to continue the series and make it more than it even is now. That would be wonderful.
I think they will, because there was Alex was saying that there's 40 hours of play was cut down to 6 hours of show. And isn't there something like 1,600 hours of play that they have on this thing?
There's a lot. there's
they're
a
not
lot.
like in 12 episodes. That's not going to kill off their entire thing at the 40-6 ratio.
So,
we've got some time.
Right.
built.
So the entire campaign basically had 3 or 4 major story arcs, and this season is going to hit upon one of those story arcs.
Excellent.
That is awesome.
I'm just waiting for the other major villains to show up that I have been promised, because I enjoyed the character designs that we saw in the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed the voice acting that we got in the trailer, and I want more baddies. I am excited for what they've done for the good guys. That seems excellent and wonderful. But I am here waiting for the other side to show up, especially given that, like, you don't get that really around a table because you're always just following the good guys.
Yeah.
And I am excited to see that they have the opportunity to give you a little bit of time with the baddies.
This is gonna sound so weird, but I am so excited for you.
Yeah, no, I get it. I'm in the same thing. I'm so excited to see this, because that is the angle that we get to see inside the DM's head. on this
Yeah.
and live and play inside the DM's head for a little while, which you never get to do. So that's an exciting thing to have this side to come out, to see the planning and the thinking and the just what went into making the other side of this campaign.
Absolutely.
So campaign 1 is 447 hours of filmed playtime, and the Kickstarter was for $750,000 to make one episode, and they've raised $11 million to make a whole season. That's what I was saying before we got started. Was I believe the first 10 episodes were funded by the Kickstarter, and then the last 2 episodes were picked up. I'm assuming by Amazon, and funded to move forward.
Which is funny because they actually struggled to find someone to pick up the series. It's not like Amazon was like the top biller or anything like that. They literally struggled. They went to Netflix, they went to all the major networks, and everyone passed on it.
Well,
Netflix
that was
doesn't
foolish.
surprise me, because Netflix is kind of seems to be making some rather silly content decisions in what they're doing for their streaming service right now.
To be fair, with Netflix at least, right now, they are heavily going into Castlevania. So I can understand them working on that and keeping that as their project. And then they also are doing The Witcher. Like, they had the anime Witcher movie, which I can't remember the name of now, but it was, Vesimer's story. So those are the 2 angles that they're going at, I think, heavily for fantasy. And it is much darker, I feel like, than Critical Role. So I can understand why Netflix did end up passing on it. That said, I think it is going to be a boon to Amazon to have it.
Yep.
Especially since they are going kind of right now all in on fantasy, whether it's like the urban superhero fantasy with The Boys or just fantasy with Wheel of Time and Lord of the Rings and now Critical Role, Legend of Vox Machina. I'm really excited to see Amazon taking a bunch of non-grimdark fantasy and bringing that a little bit more to light, to balance out, because we do get so much grimdark lately that it is really neat to see something that has a bard that sings about fucking and whatnot. Like, it's just great.
Yeah,
he straight up did.
Yes, indeed.
Flowers about to be plucked. It's time for us to...
Door slams open.
But yeah, and that's, again, they just did such a good job, like you said, of avoiding the grimdark and holding like serious moments. And even like that moment in the Shell Step was very touching and a heartfelt moment. They had heartfelt moments going through, but it didn't pull from the energy of the show. It added to it in some ways. And when we talk about as writers, one of the things you need to do is you need to introduce your characters. Well, right off the bat, you need to hook the reader. You have to have a very good start. You have to introduce the characters and make the reader or the viewers give a damn about them, and have something happen to them that people give a damn about is important enough for them to give a damn about. And with this, we got the introduction, we got the bar fight, we got to learn who they were, what they're about, and what they needed right away, and almost saw them break up immediately, so that got you the tie into them. But we've covered that. The hook of the very opening of this, with this party standing on top, these mighty heroes to face off against this unknown foe. They get absolutely decimated. Like, it took me a moment to realize that the second viewing to realize that just like this part of the wizard landed on top like a mask of one of the other characters, and it crushed me when I saw that. I was doubled over laughing at how well they just talk about setting a tone.
I think a very telling point to add on top of that is the first spoken word in the series, besides the narrator, is fuck.
Yeah.
I think it's what the fuck, isn't it?
What the fuck? Yeah, what the fuck?
What the fuck? Which, yeah. That is the appropriate thing when one of your party members, presumably someone you have been through so much with, just gets squished by a fucking rock. Yeah, that is, I think, a very human moment. And I think that's one of the treasures about the dialogue, is that it is very human in the reactions that it is a what the fuck, and those sorts of things are just there because even you, the audience, are having those moments of like, all right,
What
I
the fuck
guess
happened?
he's done.
Yeah. Did you get to see the message in chat, Audrey?
I did. Kieran, go away.
But yeah, that's the thing. Like, they really set the tone right away, and immediately at looking at that, my immediate reaction was, I don't know if my wife is going to watch this with me. And yes, let's go. I was hooked right away. And I mean, that's, again, like we've talked about, when you're telling a story, you're making a promise to the reader, especially in the first episode, in the first chapter, the first little bit, in the first act. You're promising the viewer, the audience, that this is what is happening. This is what the story is going to be about. This is what it's going to look like. And if you trust me and come with me, I'm going to take you on one hell of a ride. And at the end, you damn well better pay off on that promise and carry that through and keep that thing all the way through. And that also allows for the people that are like, this is the ride you're going to get on. Now's your chance to get off.
Yeah. I mean, that
some
is
are
the
going
thing.
to.
That's a good point.
That they make a promise in that first moment when the party is just wiped. That, yeah, this is the kind of story you're getting into. People are going to die. They're going to die in a gory fashion. And it's a no holds barred kind of story. And that was a pun, and I'm really sorry for that. And it has the payoff of that promise throughout the entire episode. Yeah. And I don't think we're getting a bait and switch.
No.
At all.
They made that promise in the trailer.
Yeah.
It's true, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned, one of the things that really made me happy about this episode was the fact that I feel like I saw a lot of it in the trailers. And that means that everything I'm going to see from now on is mostly going to be fresh. And that's really exciting to me because it still felt good watching what I saw, and not feeling like, oh, well, they spoiled something huge in the trailers. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's something we discussed. That I absolutely, one of my biggest pet peeves with trailers is when you're looking at a series, like just say, for example, like pulling off the top of my head, The Walking Dead, and they've got a trailer for what's happening for the entire season. And in like episode 2, you see that someone is like, are they going to live? Are they going to die? And you're like, well, I saw from the trailer that they're in the 5th episode, or like something this happens to them and it hasn't happened yet. So yeah, they're going to live. You've just completely shot your surprise in the foot. And I love that they didn't do that with this. You know, I understand the concept of putting your most exciting stuff into the trailer. And that's the other thing, too, is that they didn't do that of, let's take all the most exciting scenes, put it into a trailer, and when you watch it, everything is flat, and these are the only exciting scenes that you have. They're all from one episode, so you know that, again, the promise is made. Stick around. You're going to get a lot more of this.
Yeah, about the only things that are in the trailer that weren't shown in this first episode are, again, the villains.
And the finger fight.
And yeah.
Whether across the bar from each other.
Yeah. Well, yeah, which I cannot wait for. But that's the thing, is like, it's not spoilery because I don't feel like within the next few episodes that any of these characters are going to be in so much danger that they're going to die. Like, it feels like the kind of thing that, yes, a lot of people are expendable, but I think we're going to keep most of this party to the end, if not all of them, without it being a spoiler, because it feels like that kind of show. Will they all get to the end in one piece? I hope not. I mean, Grog is already missing like a rib and whatnot, which, as a chronic illness person, that moment where he does the is this normal is like my favorite moment.
Yeah,
because I use that statement like every day. Is that normal? Well, my arms are 2 different lengths. Is that normal? Is the shoulder dislocated? That's normal, right? And it's thank you, Grog. Represented.
Well, that's the big thing too, where it's like, because you're so used to dealing, because as you know, I'm the same with you as well. Not the same situation, but
close enough.
Yeah. And that's the thing where there's in twofold, where you've got this situation where you're like, wow, like, is this normal? Like, is this something that is new, or is this a part of what I have that's going on? But then the other thing is, because you live in so much pain, you live so much discomfort and chaos constantly, and when something does new happen to you, you're like, oh, is this normal and I've not seen it before? Or is this something I need to be worried about? Like, is this
my
like,
body
is this
reacting
bad?
like in a different way than
Yeah.
a normal person's reacts in this situation? Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, it's very interesting. But they did do a great job with that scene, and again, just tying in like just creating their characters.
Yeah, they did an excellent job.
Yeah. But they grabbed us right off the bat. They made a promise. They stuck to it. But I don't know. I had the same thought with you on that of who survives to the end, because if they stick to the fact that it was a rolled game, then there's very good chances that someone is going to die, that a character is going to fall off, and not be able to get healed. I mean, they may be able to get healed all the way through, but there is a possibility that, because I've played games where for the last, 2 or 3 games, someone's just coming in and they're drinking beer in the corner, making jokes at everybody, because their character wasn't able to survive. So it's going to be interesting to see. I've watched some of the Critical Role shows or episodes. I haven't watched them all, and I've got a young baby, so it's very difficult for me to find time to sit down and watch a lot of Twitch and other shows and stuff like that. I'm behind on almost everything in my life. But I have seen some, so I know what they're about and I know what it's like, but I haven't seen all of this, so I can't say that I know that everyone survives going through. And I love that fact. I love this little bit of mystery.
My favorite characters always die.
It's because your favorite character is always the villain.
Yes, but still. One of these days. One of these days.
There's a reason why the villain's story arc, or the villain's journey, ends in the final battle.
Like step 5 or 10 or something
Step
like
10,
that. Whereas,
there is
the hero's journey goes on and on.
Yeah, and then the villain's journey is done. There is no after for that. Unless you're Bowser, you somehow just keep coming back and building new castles. And has no one ever at any point been like, oh, look, there's a lot of castles suddenly being built in Mushroom Kingdom. Maybe we should investigate this. Anyways.
That's crazy. It's a Mushroom Kingdom. They're a little busy doing something else.
Farming potatoes, children. They are farming potatoes.
Yes. And not making anything other than like mashed potatoes with those potatoes.
Exactly.
PG things. Totally innocent things happening with potatoes.
Yes. Okay, so let's do a really quick, for those of you who don't know, because if you haven't seen this, you have to watch this. We have Vex, and you can correct me because I do have memory issues. If I get the terminologies wrong, feel free to correct me. We have Vex, who's female, who's an elf, one of the twins. She's awesome with the bow and arrow and can sense dragons. Vax is the male half of the twins and is very stealthy, is great with the blade, and hides in shadows. We have Pike, who is a druid and a healer. Half-elf, there we go, half-elves. We have Pike, who is a druid and a healer and a...
She's the paladin thing.
Paladin, that's what I'm looking for. Thank you.
Cleric.
Cleric. Yeah.
And then we have...
We do D&D, guys.
Yeah. And then we have Percy, who is the scientist inventor with the pepper box. We have Calith, who is the druid, I'm assuming. And the one that is so wonderful with moving trees around and doing... getting nature to do their thing and supercharging dragons. Yeah. And then we have Scanlan, who's a horny bard, and then we have Grog and a gnome, and then we have Grog, who is a giant, a murder hobo giant that likes to go around and chop off the heads of people that hire them before they get paid.
He's really got that in the wrong order. Really got that in the wrong order.
Definitely.
Payment first, beheading second.
Okay, so I keep seeing Dinosaur. You keep saying Goliath. You're saying he's not. So they refer to him as a giant.
So Goliath is a half giant.
Okay.
And that's technically what he is, but they didn't come out and say that yet, which is why.
Well, and they called him a giant in the show.
Mom on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's huge.
Yeah, in the show they actually, I think actually in Scanlan's song he calls him a giant.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so Goliath.
Big dude.
Terminology is important. And I will forget it because I do
So-
have memory loss. So for those of you who don't know, I have memory issues. I took one too many blows to the head, and the last one was with a car while I was cycling, so it really made a dent. But so I will get some of these things wrong, and feel free to correct me. It's not. I'm not going to get upset if you correct me because I know my brain is stupid and will say potato instead of giant. But that's basically the main.
Or instead of
characters that we
mushroom.
have. Yeah, exactly. But these are the main. Like, this is an amazing cast of characters that you would obviously expect to see in a D&D game, and I can't wait to see what happens more with these.
Same.
And Dinosaur, I appreciate that you have volunteered to be the official scribe corrector,
Fact checker.
Yeah.
fact checker. There we go.
There you go.
Perfect. Perfect.
Alex Dinosaur is the official fact checker of this show.
It's Alex Dinosaur.
Alex Ted Dinosaur.
Yeah.
All right, Alex.
There
Ted
should be a
Dinosaur.
little red line underneath that. Just saying.
You know a lot about Critical Role. That's awesome. I want to learn more about them, but like I said, I have. Oh God, just say that.
Nope, it is now Alex to Dinosaur.
Alex Ted Dinosaur.
That is it. That is it. Alex to Dinosaur.
I'm going to start. What I'm going to see. The problem with me is the baby is still very sensitive in her sleeping. So when I watch stuff at night on Twitch, I have to have the volume off. So it's really hard for me to watch something that is basically based around talking constantly. So that's why I tend to watch a lot of like speed runs and stuff that I can just see pretty flashing things. But so I do want to watch more of the Critical Role stuff. I love what they do. I love all of them. And that, for those of you who don't know, the cast of this is just, the voice acting cast in this is just stunning.
Phenomenal.
And people that, it's not just Critical Role. Like we pointed out earlier, David Tennant is plays one of the characters.
I love that
Yeah.
so much.
I thought you would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In my actual notes that I wrote, I have it underlined like 6 times.
I love it. Well,
That is
and
amazing.
I loved Good Omens. And I love the fact we have part 2 that's coming. I can't wait for part 2. I never
Yes.
thought I would say I wanted to see a part 2 of Good Omens, but knowing what it is about it, I cannot wait for it.
Yes.
But we were
excited.
also talking about the... So we talked about scaling. We're also talking about the grossness factor. So there is a few things that they did go a little bit lead foot on. And yeah, I think the one that we can all kind of come to agreement with was the vomiting.
Barfing.
For me, the barfing, the vomiting, the yakking, the spewing chunks, whatever you want to call it, that that hit
Yep.
me was...
Way to make it worse.
For me, it was when they were standing in front of the Sovereign and they got the job, and then there's the final puke. I was kind of like, I get the punctuation of the joke, but think that was kind of played by
A little far.
Yeah, in my mind.
There were 3 barfs by the time 4 minutes and 44 seconds. 3 barfs.
Oh God.
And then there was a 4th.
Wasn't there more than that though? I thought there was more than 4. Like maybe it just like
Maybe that's just the ones that I caught, or that I like.
I
was
thought
just
that
like,
they may have
"Ugh."
been,
Yeah.
because there's when she's at the table, she throws up,
Yeah.
and then she throws up into the dog's mouth, and the dog throws
Yeah.
up into her
Dog
mouth,
throws up.
and
He misses. He
Yeah.
just vomits
Okay.
He
on
just
the floor.
vomits.
Yeah.
Pike
I
almost
just
throws up.
Had a heart
When-
attack.
When Caleb vomits, Pike almost throws
It's
up.
just vomiting back and forth. It's a new Cards Against Humanity card.
And then there's, I guess, yeah, just in front of the Sovereign.
And then Caleb. Yeah.
That was it. But like I
It
was
just
saying
felt
before,
like
like
so much more.
it
Yeah,
did, and
that
to
was
me,
enough.
by the time they got to the 4th one, it kind of felt like I felt like I was left out of an inside joke. Like, had I been watching the show, I would have been caught up on this really funny trope that they had going on. And I think that was just because it was brought to that point, that it was like, okay, this is a funny thing you're doing. Okay, it's funny. Okay, am I missing something? And not in a bad way, like, am I stupid? But like, okay, I'm starting to feel like there's something else that I'm just, yeah, there's some kind of inside thing that I'm missing. But that's just
It
the way
did
things go.
feel like with some of the potty mouth and the barfing and the grotesqueness that they were really indulging being able to do it. So whether or not it is kind of like a nod to the once in a while moments that they were able to do, you know, on their usual stuff, or if it was just the, oh my God, we finally get to make these jokes, so we're going to do it, and we're going full throttle, take it to 11. But I personally vote that Billy now keeps a vomit counter. Yes. So we're at 4, and then we can continue to see what we get by the end of the season. My bet is that we're going to get to the double digits, is my guess.
Yeah. I was already planning to have a fuck counter. I'll add a barf counter to it.
Nice.
There we go.
Yes. Okay, so how many fucks are we at?
I didn't count yet. Before this started, I was like, you know what I need to do? I need to have a fuck counter.
And is this including the physical fucks or just the verbal fucks?
That's what I was going to ask. Is it like both?
Yeah, maybe I'll have 2 separate ones.
So maybe we need...
We'll have a Scanlan
there we
counter.
go.
Scanlan counter. Yes.
The which?
Scanlan counter.
Scanlan counter.
Scanlan being Scanlan.
I was going to say, instead of having a like the smash or pass kind of thing, we can do the smash, fuck, and vomit.
Yeah.
So how many times there's sex, how many times there's fucking, how many times there's vomit? And there's all these people that are normally in my stream are going, oh my gosh, what am I hearing?
I'm turning this off. Wow.
But that's the thing is like I agree with Alex Dinosaur that there is probably not going to be too much more vomiting. Agreed. But I definitely think we're still going to get into the double digits because we've got 1 episode with 4. And we've got how many more episodes? Like, even if it's 1 every other episode or every 3 episodes, that I think still hits us onto double digits.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be tight. I don't know.
I think we're going to be in the double digits. Most definitely. We're going to hit the double digit. I think that's a given. There's so many other reasons and opportunities to throw up.
Yeah.
Speaking of someone with chronic pain, there's other things that cause you to throw up.
So many.
So, and if they're delving this deep into the side of things, I like the fact that Alex Dinosaur is saying that he'll fight all of you. Like, LJ doesn't have a ghost on her desk, and I don't have a Deadpool Bob Ross on my desk. Like,
yeah, it's like, bring it. Now, the question is it me or is it me and the service dog? Because he's attached to me at all times. So you're going to get tackled by a husky. Guaranteed during this process. Just saying. It's not as simple as you think. Plus, I can just dislocate out of the way.
That is true.
And I have 7 cats.
Oh, yeah. So
do you actually?
Billy's untouchable.
No.
I was going to say, my neighbor has 5 cats.
6 cats and a wife named Cat. So.
Oh, there you go. So you have 7 cats.
Yeah.
I have a baby.
And a bad pun. You have a baby, which is also terrifying for some of us. So, you know.
She's terrifying for me, too. All she does is try to hurt herself. But anyways.
Babies.
I don't know how we have survived adulthood, especially if you're my spawn. I am shocked that I made it as far as I have. Yeah, so I watch my daughter trying to do stuff, and I'm like, I have to relive myself. I have to watch myself grow in a female version of constantly trying to get into trouble, climbing stuff you're not supposed to be climbing. Like, I hydro a pole during a freezing rainstorm in sandals.
Yeah.
Not recommended. But anyways.
Yeah.
We've gone... Not a hydro pole, one of those transformer things. Those hydro... Or these... So, like, you know the bridges, the signs that go across the highway?
Yeah, the highway bridges.
That go that way. Like, they've kind of got the support brackets that go across like that as you go up into them. It was a freezing rainstorm. I was walking back from a pub. I was wearing sandals. I thought it would be a good idea to climb up it and climb out and sit over top of the highway. I'm still alive. That's all the story needs to have.
So I identify with Grog. Does this mean that Travis is like... I'm not sure. Yeah, it's like, is Grog or like is a drunk Vax or Scanlan? Like, I am really torn on who that story fits best.
That's what I'm trying to figure out. That's why I need to know more of their backstories.
We can rule
Trinket.
out Percy, I think, on this. Very much so.
Yeah, I think we've already decided that Travis is Trinket. Like, case closed.
Yeah, yeah, actually, accurate. Yeah, that he's the bear.
There we go. She keeps saying Travis and Grog in the same sentence, and I get momentarily
Yeah.
confused.
The voice actor is Travis Willingham, and it's the
Well
same
then,
Yeah,
well then,
there we go.
Calm Scribe Travis is clearly Grog.
Well, and that's actually
Clearly.
something that's going to be coming up on a future stream. Is I've interviewed Travis Tavern Talk before, another author on Twitch, another writer, and the first interview was a little more straight edge and just talking about things and stuff, but being a bit goofy. But the next interview, we are going to have things where we're going to refer to each other constantly by our names. So they'll be like,
As
well,
you do.
Travis, thank you very much for that question, Travis. He's like, well, Travis, and just using that as often as possible.
Lean hard into it, as you do.
We're gonna have fun. So is there anything that we're missing from this? Like, one thing that I found that I really appreciated as well is, like I said, from the writing perspective and all the stuff that they plowed in or rammed into this episode, they even included, I'm going to put on my English teacher hat here for a moment, they even included pathetic fallacy. And the fact that they come back from fighting and, when the dragon is there, there's the storm clouds and stuff, which you can just say comes from the dragon. But when they go back to the fishing village, or to the village, and they see that everything's been burned down by the dragon, as they're approaching the village, it starts raining outside, it gets dark, it gets gloomy. And that whole scene is perfectly framed in by Mother Nature mimicking the emotion and the moment of the scene. And I love the fact that they actually, they even thought so far ahead. I don't know if that's just hey, it'd be really cool to have it rain here, or if they were like, you know what, let's actually include pathetic fallacy, and it was a thought out process for it. But I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't. I would be surprised if it wasn't thought out. Like, they really seem to have put a lot of care into all. This is obviously
It's
something they love and
definitely.
they care about, and I think they put a lot of thought into each and every scene.
Well, especially given that the house that is least destroyed is the fisherman's house, is the house that was blessed. It's half destroyed, and it was a half-ass blessing. So it kind of sort of worked.
Yep.
And I enjoy that little nod.
Yeah, and we talk about the fact that a story arc, and when you're doing a series, is nested within the greater story arc. So from episode 1 to episode 12, there's a great story arc. In each episode has its own story arc. And that's where you really get into the nesting, because episode 2 is going to have its own story arc, but it's going to tie in an arc from 1 to 2, and then for the greater. And then it'll go 1 to 2 to 1 to 3 and 2 to 3, and you get this diagram coming down of how everything kind of stacks and nests and ties into each other. And
You get that
they did that in this episode with the coin, where he does the magic trick, Vax does the magic trick, gives the kid the coin, and then at the end, that's the trigger to, the boy dies, the hand slips out, he keeps the coin, and he's like, no, we have no choice, we have to go on with this.
It's
Yeah.
well
And I think it was
done.
really well, the bookend tie-in of that thing was a beautiful, if you needed more of an incentive to take up the task and really step into this and lean into the challenge, that was beautiful.
Well, and it ties back into the trauma aspect as well, because of the fact that Vax is looking at this little boy that could have been him, that easily could have been him. And this whole family has been decimated. He had this moment with this kid. There's so much to it that is well played. It was well done.
Yeah, I think they did a fantastic job with that. Sorry, just checking, make sure that's all right. Oh, Critical Role is on plane. There we go.
What do you know? Success.
Thank you for
Well,
coming through, Dinosaur. I appreciate it.
I'm out of booze. So is there anything else that we want to or have missed discussing?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so.
I feel like we discussed this pretty hard.
Yeah.
I think so. That also seemed to be that's what Scanlan said. Right moment there.
That's what I was going for.
That's it. Well, I mean, we went longer than we were anticipating, but I mean, I think this is just not all like we went away from topic and all that other fun stuff, but it was definitely a great conversation about this, and I'm really looking forward to breaking down the other ones. And again, I think we can always expect the premiere episode and the finale episode of each season of something that we do is going to be a little bit off or a little bit longer, because there's just excitement built into it, and we're really stoked for it all. Thank you to my co-host very much for coming in for After the Roll and breaking down Legend of Vox Machina. There's the dice. I'll have my sword out for next time.
Yeah, we need to get you some swag.
Yes, I have to get my sword
All of
out.
my self-promotion.
Well, I've got my hats and stuff. And shirts. I just haven't worn it, and just dealing with all that fun stuff. So, all right. So I will be right back, Chad, in just a moment.
Until the legend continues.
Until the legend continues. There we go. I love it.